Welcome back to another edition of BCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we've got a full, exciting week of episodes here as we are now officially in Q4. We are in those last few months sprinting towards the end of the year, looking ahead already at 2021. So what are we talking about here today? Why is this important? Why am I reminding you every single day about this? Well, 2020 has been a wild year. We've had a lot of things happen. We've had a lot of things change and a lot of digital transformation, digitization, whatever you want to call it. A lot of things have come once physical to now digital, as we were just talking pre-show. What does that mean for you? Well, it's the last 3 months of the year. You should be getting your fundraising done. You should be getting your product and services in the hands of customers. You should also be planning for 2021 and looking at how this digitization affects your business, your customers, your products for that year ahead. And as investors, where does this digitization play out in the industries that you're focused in? That's what we're talking about here on BCTV. And that is why we have brought some of the greatest investors from around the world to talk to you today about what is happening specifically in bio, med, and health tech. So we're looking at these three areas: bio, med, and health tech, where these three industries are intersecting with technology and where the digitization of this past year really is playing an impactful role, shifting and changing how these industries are being looked at from all sides, whether that's us as patients or on the enterprise with the doctors and the medical professionals themselves, from R&D all the way again to us as end user consumers. So tons to talk about, tons of trends, tons of things happening around the world. Let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, a thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, make sure you click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Do reach out as well as investors if you'd like to be on a show like today to share your thoughts and insights about technologies, industries, and regions around the world. We'd love to have you and find the right episode and the right set of investors to do so as well. Entrepreneurs, we talked about this in the beginning. This is your time as well. There's a virtual stage here at BCTV, and we would love to have you on it to pitch us as investors in real time, as we'll have some companies a little later today on the BCTV do so, where you can pitch us in real time as investors to get feedback on your company, product, and service, along with our live audience. Do reach out to the LATOKEN team and or myself, and we'll find the right set of investors, right topic for you and your company. And a big thank you to LATOKEN and to Emmanuel and the entire team for making BCTV possible happen every single day. With that, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. And again, we're going to be talking about bio, med, and health technologies. Where and what is all happening in these three areas. But before we do, let's go ahead and introduce every one of our investors and make sure you get the chance to get to know them a little bit more as we get started. Ritesh, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro and a little background for everybody, please.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to join this session, wonderful session again. And so I will start quickly. I'll give an introduction about myself and my company and what we are doing. My name is Ritesh Agrawal. I started my career as a software developer in TCS long back in 1997, joined the Bank of America, worked in Bank of America for a while, and then joined a services company where we did the digital transformation and got a chance to work in the corporate venture arm. That is where I met a few board members that are there on the SARACAP website, and they inspired us to start our own fund in 2017. We are a technology fund. We invest in only three domains. Healthcare is number one. Number two is cyber. Number three is AI. AI not being a domain, it's a technology, so it cut across all the domain, gave us the opportunity to invest. And recently we have made huge investments in the drone space, specifically two companies, Robotic Skies and Metanet. We have done two funds. First one was a small fund, 5 million, very small fund just to do a POC. We don't come from the money background, we come from the technology background. All four of my partners are from the technologists. We have been in the CXO role for good 14, 15 years. So this is, being a fund manager is a new thing for us. Still learning, but technology is something that we know in and out. Second fund is 50 million that we recently closed, and we are in the phase of deploying. And we are launching a third fund, which is going to be a $120 million fund in the Q1 of next year. So exciting ride so far, a lot of learnings, a lot of good memories. All the 12 companies that we have invested so far, they have done up round in last 6 months during the COVID time. So that's a good news. So I will speak more about what's happening in the technology world, specifically keeping healthcare in mind. So with that, I will hand it over back to you, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ritesh. Real quick question though, with this fund 2, and I know fund 3 might have a little different, but fund 2, for those who may not know, what is typically the stage that you invest in? Is it seed, series growth? Where do you guys usually focus at?
Seed plus. So we are pre-series A, and we start, for our definition, a seed is not that's a PowerPoint company. Means you have a POC, you have a product, you have a team, you have some revenue coming in, or you have a very good line of sight of revenue. So we come in at that time, give you the money to fuel the fire and take it to the series A. And post series A, between series A and series B, typically we would like to exit. So though it's a 10-year fund, but we want to have a journey with our company around 2 to 3 years. And 2 to 3 years, we look for the right set of multiples that we are looking for.
I love it. Well, welcome back, and congratulations on not just fund 2, but in early congrats on fund 3 as well to you and your team. Anuj, welcome back to the show, man. You're looking great. It's a pleasure to see you here on a Monday, Partner Monday at that. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thanks, mate. Always good to be back on the show. Always good to see you. So introducing myself, I have been an entrepreneur for the past 10 years, have started multiple ventures, with the last one being Skivi app, from which I took an exit back in 2018. Presently, I'm working on Yellow Sapphire Technologies and Atotum. At Atotum, we are developing a privatized healthcare concierge for the Indian population for chronic and critical care patients. We are also a partner for World Business Angel Forum to promote entrepreneurship across the world and for financial inclusivity. Along with that, I work with multiple funds in the United States and Israel to help them get more deals, find the right set of companies. So yeah, that's pretty much it about me.
Audience, that's not just all about him. That's just the small little snippet we got. This man is very, very well versed. We're going to find out a little bit more about that specifically in today's topic. So don't let him walk away. Get your questions ready because he's got a ton of knowledge to give. With that, Giampaolo, welcome back to the show, my friend. It's a pleasure to see you. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thank you, Kyle. Welcome, everybody. Good day, everyone. I'm Giampaolo Parigi. I'm a serial entrepreneur, 31 years in the business. I've been a venture capitalist and investment banker. I chair a single family office, and I got a keen interest in technology, though I don't come from a technology background. I come from the money business. And I have also invested in the past in the healthcare business repeatedly. So I'm quite intrigued by what we will share today here. Thank you. Back to you, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you. Boba, welcome back to the show. I apologize for cutting you off pre-show. We had so much to talk about. We had to get started. So here's your chance. First and foremost, a little intro, a little background, and then I'll come back to you for even more as well. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning, good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure for me to share a couple of things with you. I'm a pharmacist by training and had the pleasure of working at Warner Lambert, which was acquired by Pfizer. Had the honor of working on Lipitor, and then joined Centocor, which was acquired by J&J as the president of Biopharma, which has developed Remicade, then AkzoNobel, and the last 14 years as a venture capital partner at Venture East. Now we're running a seed fund for digital health. I'm based in San Francisco. We'll talk about a couple of my investments later. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Bobo. Welcome. Neil.
Yes, sir.
Pleasure to have you. Little intro, a little background for everybody.
Yeah, my name is Neil Modi. Nice to meet you, everybody. And thanks to my fellow panelists. Thanks for having me. So I guess I'm a VC by day. I'm not a Cape Crusader by night, in case you're wondering. I invest in the seed stage of MedTech. And I think we're the only institutional investor focused on MedTech at the seed stage exclusively, meaning we don't have any other things we focus on. And we're pretty IP-centric. So my last company I learned quite a bit about IP as we filed 3,700 unique patent claims in a space to end up owning more patents than GE and Siemens, are competitors in that material science space. We were actually in room temperature superconductors, to be more clear. So, I kind of take that Fortune 50 or Fortune 100 IP strategy that that I learned at that company, and help apply that at all the different companies that we invest in at Zoic. We started with a very small fund of a couple $1 million, and now we've closed 15 million, and we're going for another $25 million fund, focused, again, at that seed stage.
I'm lost for words here for just a moment for the fact that you've worked on filing 3,700 patents. This is insane. What can you give us?
3,700 claims. You've got dependent claims, unique claims. You want to put them in a smaller number of patents because it's cheaper at the USPTO website and worldwide. But yeah, all of them have been granted in China and all of the other, important domains for a company like that.
Wow.
In 20 different verticals. So
wow.
Yeah, we try and look at large scale platforms when we invest, and we like to, even if it's a little smaller scale on the platform we're looking at, we're kind of bringing that eye to everything we look at.
Very, very cool. Well, no other man to follow up that statement than the one and only Gary Fowler, the Grand Master of Artificial Intelligence, who he himself is a patent, ladies and gentlemen. Gary Fowler, welcome back to the show. Little intro, little background for you.
You're over the top.
It was too good. It was too easy. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. It's too easy. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, so my name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm also a venture capitalist, and I've been doing startups for over 30 years. Have been lucky to have been involved in 2 unicorns. Co-founded Eva.ai, which is a company I co-founded with David Yang, a billionaire from Russia. Company's actually in the US now and growing like crazy. We formed it 4 years ago, near unicorn status today. And also I was on the original management team of Click Software, an Israeli company brought from Haifa, Israel to the US. It was sold 14 months ago for a little over $1 billion. And I love AI. As Kyle said, I love artificial intelligence. And I also work in remote patient monitoring. I have a company called Zemply, which is a Stanford MBA that has co-founded the company actually with me. And the company's grown like crazy. So love it. I believe that we're in a unique time. We've got a lot of technologies that are intersecting, from Apple Watches to technologies for telemedicine. So it's really great to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And it's great to have each and every one of you. As I tease during your intros, it is a pleasure to have each and every one of you. And there's so much to talk about in the industries that we were talking about today, from bio to med to health tech as well, and everything in between, the services and technologies that are powering each of these industries. And if you open up a newsletter of following some of the venture news, you'll see a numerous amount of companies in these spaces almost daily now that are closing capital, are planning public offerings, that are going through mergers and acquisitions. It's pretty wild. And just to true point, I opened up a term sheet, a common newsletter that we all get here. And this morning, I think I saw maybe 5 different headlines, maybe more, of companies that were either filing for IPO, getting funding of double-digit millions of dollars, looking at SPACs, which we'll talk about later as well. It is definitely the time, to everyone's point here today, that these industries are changing, and they're also painting a future for the decade ahead. And with that, I want to come to each of you and get your thoughts and insights on where things stand today. Aside from the headlines, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Each and every one of you are making investments in this space. You're building in this space. You've come from this space. What are you seeing as things are today and looking ahead to 2021? Ritish, let's start with you. What is the current state of these industries for you and from your standpoint?
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, it's very interesting. You know what? This COVID definitely has changed the landscape very quickly, very fast. And the kind of companies that are being born in this last 6 months I believe in next 10 years, they are going to rule, specifically in the healthcare space. So what we are seeing is three things. One is that there is a consolidation that is happening while the growth is happening. So this is a new phenomenon, growth and consolidation happening at the same time. Second, the new age companies that are coming in the healthcare space, they are trying to integrate all the different aspects of the healthcare that are very fractured and fragmented. And third is that now the focus is that how can I keep always the focus has been to keep the cost low of the healthcare, but rather than getting the patient inside the hospital or the care, how can I keep it at home? That's number one. And second is that once a patient checks out from the hospital, how can I ensure that he doesn't go back to the hospital? All the care is being given at the home. So RPM definitely is picking up. I think it's already very crowded. I believe in next 3 to 4 years, we'll see a few unicorns and a lot of consolidation. We have recently made an investment in a company called IntelliEdge. They are into RPM, and you won't believe they just had the product, and they launched the product within 60 days. They got Baylor and Cedar as their first client, and they're specifically into cardiology. The other thing that I want to mention is that all these RPM companies are now focusing on one or the other domain of the healthcare, like cardiology or diabetes. What we are seeing is as they mature, they will be integrating all these pieces together, and that is where they become very, very powerful. Number one. Number two is open architecture. So this RPM platforms are becoming more and more open now, where they are giving a liberty to the companies to bring their own devices. So they are basically providing a software as a service or healthcare as a service, and they're making it so plug and play that any company that has their own devices can plug in into their system, and they can start giving you the services that you're looking for. So very interesting time, very interesting space, a lot of innovation, as I said before, growth and consolidation at the same time. So good to be in this space. If you pick your right bets, I'm very sure a lot of people will make a lot of money in next 3 to 4 years.
I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the things that you're calling out just right, which Gary touched on as well in his opening, is that openness of software, the openness of platforms, allowing for the plug and play from a device perspective. Because, one of the things that we've seen in my background of IoT and wearables, and just one of many, is how many of these devices have existed, have kind of come and gone, but also how many are still with us. And it's a customer or consumer preference and not necessarily a standard, and that's okay. And so with that, how do you make these all work, right? And also benefit the end user. And I think you're calling it out just right, as that trend you're seeing is the openness of platforms so that these devices can play in, as Gary mentioned, the Apple Watch and some of the other devices that we're seeing as well. So thank you, Ritesh. Anuj, to you, current state, what are you seeing? You're all over the world. You're working with the top organizations in the world. Oh, Boba, I apologize. Well, let me come to you real quick. Anuj, hold on one second. Boba, did you have something to add?
I need to step out at 8:30, so I'm just wondering whether I could have 5 minutes or so talk about our investments. Okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Anuj, hold on one second. Boba, thank you for letting me know. Why don't you go ahead, and Anuj, if you're okay, we'll come to you next. So Boba, go ahead.
Okay. I think Kyle and all of you have indicated the space is really going gangbusters. And there was an article I saw the other day when Teladoc acquired Livongo for $18 billion. That $18 billion represents 41% of the capital invested in the telehealth, digital health since 2011, okay? So why do people invest in businesses? Because they see the exits, they see the opportunities. So it's a big thing. And many of you read these CB Insights, okay, and these reports, and they're talking about the record number of investments in the quarter ended September last week, okay? I'll be happy to send those reports to you. The 3 investments we made today, I think Gary everyone talked about artificial intelligence. So now what we have the tools to go after the biggest problems in the healthcare, whether it is, helping the doctors to provide better care or getting the service remotely for the patients that who cannot access quality care. I just want to give you 3 examples where we invested. One is Zeit, which is a German term for time. It's a Stanford biodesign startup. And what they're now going after, stroke, okay? Take the high-risk stroke patients within a device that's inserted in the back of, implanted in the back of your head, and with a lot of AI, okay? So what they're saying, they can actually reduce the mortality in half for the high-risk stroke patients, and also they can reduce the morbidity, okay? So it's early stage, but we're very happy to invest in those kinds of big problems that we couldn't deal with them before the AI and these implantable smart devices. That's one. The second one is the other area where very high mortality is sepsis, okay? Septicemia, septic shock, all of you are familiar. A company that we invested licensed the technology from Duke, okay? Sepsis, again, this is all about algorithms, machine learning, and AI. So be able to detect the sepsis a few hours ahead of time, and so you can actually save the people here, okay? The third is remote patient monitoring. This is in a hardware software. Some people just use the software. You can plug in any of these devices. This does the 6 vitals, okay? All the EKG, the pulse oximetry, body temperature, the heart rate, etc. And hardware, software, very simple device. And we're very happy to see, again, machine learning is part of that process. What do you do with all these vital signs if you can't interpret and do a meaningful diagnosis or help the doctor to make the right diagnosis? So we're really excited about how many new deals, new innovations and technology are coming here. Some of them are going to die, not going to succeed. But I think we are here to solve some of the major problems in healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Boba. Appreciate that. I know you have to leave, so thank you very much. Real quick, where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation if they want to connect? Boba, that's to you. Oh, you're on mute. Oh, no worries, audience. I'll make sure we get Boba's information out there. So if you want to connect with him, we'll make sure to help you find the right opportunity as well. Anuj, to you, at current state, what are you seeing? What's happening? What are you seeing from your viewpoint around the world?
Thanks, Mike. So, I mean, if anyone has seen me before on the show, they know I talk about Southeast Asia, about China, India, Singapore, Myanmar. And what I'm seeing here right now is a great expansion in terms of telemedicine, telehealth. There's a lot of companies that are coming up with innovative solutions. But over the course of last, I would say 1 or 2 weeks, one thing which I'm constantly noticing is that since medical community has been a very close-knit community, anyone who is not from a medical background does not really understand how hospitals work, what are the different departments through which a diagnosis goes through, or if you're getting some test, how that organization chain is flowing. So one of the key factors that I'm seeing right now, while there are a lot of companies that are coming up in diagnosing, in consulting, they are still leaving a huge market that's open for other departments, for other avenues. To give you an example, we just this week started working with a teleradiology company, which basically takes up your radiology report, sends it to a radiologist. So rather than having one in the operation theater with you at all times, or having one in the radiology center at all times, a radiologist can work off of their desk or from home and basically send in the reports as and when needed. It's not only convenient for the hospitals because they get to save more cost, but it's more effective if rather than having to go run around as a radiologist, having to run around multiple rooms going through the same files. If a radiologist can access all these information on their laptop, which is accurate, and can have AI already pointing out some of the issues which might be there, it basically helps cut down misdiagnosis in probably 60 to 65%. And that's one of the key avenues which I don't see a lot of startups focusing. So it was mind blowing for me to see, while as entrepreneurs, as engineers, we are focusing on one avenue, we are completely ignoring others. I've said this before, that as engineers, as technology enthusiasts, we fall in love with the tech we create. Oh my God, this is probably going to save, we're probably going to solve world hunger. You got to see the bigger picture, mate. It's great to love the tech. I love my tech, but we all know technology in itself is not everything. You got to see multiple sides of it. You always have to take the human aspect in it. MedTech, while the word is medicine and tech, we have to understand that technology by itself will not do everything. There has to be the medicine side of it. There has to be the human side of it. And that's what you got to work upon.
I think you're calling it out perfectly on the human side, right? If you don't have that human element, you're missing something, because to your point, we are the patient, right? We are the platform. We are that. And if you don't have that included, then it's just a different type of process. So I think you're calling it out spot on. Gary, to you, what are you seeing? What are you seeing happening in the current state of biomed and health tech in your world right now?
Yeah, so I mean, look at all the data that we're getting, all the incredible data. Yesterday, I had an interview, and the interview was with some of the top pharmaceutical companies in Europe, and the idea was AI and drug discovery. So think about the kind of modeling that can take place in a very, very short period of time. And more importantly, since this started, Kyle, and I've had the pleasure to join you on a number of these casts, imagine how things have changed with COVID, right? Look at what we're trying to do in terms of drug discovery, because it could be $1 trillion drug that comes out. And so the companies are eager. So there was a consortium of 20 companies who are interested in artificial intelligence, has contact several of us in AI, looking at how they can actually use it more. They're on, each one of them are looking at how they can use things like unsupervised artificial intelligence, supervised, semi-supervised artificial intelligence to make this process go a lot faster. The other thing, think about where we are today. So about, typically because of HIPAA, et cetera, we weren't using cloud-based solutions. It just wasn't happening. They would be in the hospital, but now we're open. Why? Because we've been forced to move down that path. And what does it mean for us? It means a lot better collaboration. And now look at all the data that's coming out. Now using artificial intelligence to be able to analyze all that data, things like clinical trials, even having Apple Watches. Now finally incorporating Apple Watches as part of that whole process. So we are in the dawn across the board. I mean, from computer vision, being able to use it for melanoma, to be able to make it a lot more accurate, and at the same time going down through and to be able to, for telemedicine, to be able to have the best doc in the world to be able to talk to you and look at things. I mean, this is just, it's incredible actually. So what I see is that, on one side, this pandemic has created a lot of challenges, but it's also created some of the greatest opportunities we've ever seen. I also have invested in a remote patient monitoring company. Our business with that company, we've got almost now 30,000 users that want to come on board. We've got 3,000 directly that have signed up. I mean, and it's a growth mode. It's crazy. It's because why? Because people don't want to be in nursing homes, and they want to be in their homes. Why? Because they live longer. So, and at the same time, their loved ones, wherever they're located. So if they're in Neil's down in Phoenix right now, whether they're in Italy, it doesn't matter. You're able to understand what's happening with your mother or father. And also, if somebody needs to be alerted because they fall, they can instantly get some kind of a notification. So we are in the dawn of something incredible. The other thing is I did a project at Stanford called Health Extensions, Living to 120, a couple of years ago with my MBA students. I took a summer off and I guided one of the top student from Skolkovo in Russia, and I brought him over to the US for 3 months. And the technologies are taking place from nanobots to clean the cholesterol out of your system to replacement organs that are out there. This is just, we could live to 120 in a not too distant future and more. So it's an exciting time. I mean, look at crabs, right? Being able to regenerate a part of your body, right? Understanding those kind of technologies, things like genetic sequencing. So it's a dawn of a new era. And the good news is all of us want to live longer, or most of us want to live longer. Now we can extend the quality of life.
Well, and we've got data, right? And we've got technology to help us do that. We've talked about this on previous episodes of the idea of getting, very personalized medicine or personalized healthcare, which I know we're going to get to when we hear speak in just a moment. But this is also a trend that's starting to push forward, and something we'll probably see in the next coming decade in the early of the days, as it's a much longer trend and opportunity as well. But Gianpaolo, to you.
Can I say one thing, Kyle? So that genetic sequencing that I was talking about is to deliver those kind of very personalized medicine. So that's one of the things I forgot to mention. That genetic sequencing is some of the ways that we can do it, so we get the right medicine at the right place at the right time.
Well, that just changes the game for everything, right? If you've got this small little, how you react to something may be different to how I react to Ritesh, to everybody, right? We all react differently to certain things. So when you can start to fine tune and tailor those things, it really can create more an optimal you, but also a more healthier you as well, if that's what you're looking for. So you're spot on, Gary, and where that's going to go. Gianpaolo, sir,
yeah,
current state, what are you seeing?
Well, definitely, I really agree on what's been said till now. I see a decentralization of the healthcare system. I mean, I think we're going cellular in the healthcare industry. So trying to service the patients where they are rather than bringing them into large structures called hospitals and care centers unless really necessary. And of course, I mean, artificial intelligence will allow us to do wonders and increase the capability of not only processing data faster, but also coming up with derivatives that are unimaginable for us. I mean, let's face it, we are the first collective generation in the world that is living in an era in which technology can invent itself. So far, inventions have been made by humans. Now, I mean, we are opening a fourth dimension, and none of us can say what's going to happen because we are in the middle of the jungle, and our ability to climb trees up on top to see how wide the forest is at the moment doesn't exist as humans. So basically, we are, to a degree, jumping in the dark. And I totally emphasize also with what Anuj said earlier on. As an investor, I see a bottleneck in the capability of humans to adapt soon enough, and especially another bottleneck immediately after. And when I say humans, I say primarily doctors and technical people that would have to retrain themselves and refresh and hone their skills to adapt to the constant breakneck pace of technology. But even more so, I see bottlenecks at academia level, because there's a need for reconfiguration of syllabuses and courses to factor in the impact of new technologies. What with Gary said, with Simply, for example, and the remote assistance. We could have a lot of examples on this, and I see that the ivory towers are lagging behind, and this will. In every classroom, every teacher knows that you go at the speed of the slowest, not at the speed of the fastest. So I totally resonate on Anuj's comment. As an investors, I see that we have identified certain bottlenecks. We also have to infuse capital and a lot of thinking on those areas to see how we can, if not remove the clock completely, at least speed up the flow. And that's what I see as a challenge, because technology will keep amazing us, but if we don't follow suit, we will go slow. Thank you.
Absolutely. Neil, to you.
Yeah, so I've got a macro and micro view. My macro views my macro and micro view are very similar to what Gary was talking about. I think COVID is the equivalent of the space race when Russia launched the Sputnik. We're now in the healthcare race, right? And so the next decade, we're going to see an acceleration of adoption of technology in healthcare. And I don't remember the name of the comedian who said, I can't get no respect, but I kind of felt like healthcare and funding and innovation has kind of been in that.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, sorry, Rodney
Hey,
Dangerfield.
Gary had the jump
I
on
get
me.
no
I let it
respect.
go.
No respect.
There you go.
I kind of feel like healthcare was saying that in funding for quite some time. And so I don't think we're in that phase anymore, right? A lot more people are paying attention to what's going on. And so, I think kind of going into the micro version of what we're seeing, one of my partners says that we're really all about investing in unique data collection for humans. And it's not necessarily just that, because there's some interesting hardware we invest in as well, like synthetic veins, where we don't collect any data. But it's this combination of the acceleration of AI and the advancements in electrical engineering and biology, and the fusion of those two things that's allowing us to invest in technologies that wouldn't have necessarily existed 5 years ago. I want to say that I kind of disagree with some of the sentiments about, from Gianpaolo about how, technology is going to reinvent itself and how we've got better technology coming. I don't think we've ever had a lack of transformational technology sitting on the shelves at university. I think we've had a lack of great teams that understand how to commercialize it. And so I think, yes, we're going to continue to see accelerations, of unique diagnostics. That's, a lot of what I spend my time looking at and investing in. We're going to see an acceleration of other unique specific segments within MedTech. And I think we're going to find this passive world that I think somebody else on the panel mentioned as well. But we're in a really interesting time, and I'm pretty excited to be a part of carving out the future.
So on that note, where do you see the areas of opportunity? And Neil, we'll start with you and we'll come back around. Where do you see the areas of opportunities that people should be focusing on? Because you're right, we do have a slew of technology sitting at universities and stuff that's been untapped around the world, but also to Gianpaolo's point, there's a ton of technology that is coming that will be developed without our even say, and leveraging what Gary and others have mentioned around data and the possibility of what we create as users, right? User-generated content or user-generated data. So where are you seeing the areas of opportunity from your standpoint that we should be focused on?
Yeah, the stuff we're looking at is completely, a lot of stuff we see is completely unique diagnostics. We definitely see, and I'll give you an example. We are seeing, we invest in a company that has some of the same claims Theranos had, right? Only, they're scientists, by the way, and they sold their last company to LabCorp, and they know what they're doing. So we are seeing, technologies like that. We're also seeing a fair amount in hardware still, like that synthetic vein. We invest in a YC company called Innovane. These guys are the leading vascular researchers in the world and have led to, more than 40 billion worth of exits at this point. So pretty interesting guys. Austin Walker is the CEO there. We're seeing, I wouldn't say it was just one specific segment, and it's hard to say. I would say one of the things we're still looking for, a little bit to Gianpaolo's point too, is are we investing in completely novel things? And if nobody's ever done it before, if there's like next to almost no IP in it, we're really interested, and how is it going to be adopted into the system is a lot about what we think about. So maybe that starts to help you understand at least my lens.
Gianpaolo, same question to you.
Yeah, well, I see. I mean, the most important thing, I think, take a look at telecommunications. I mean, I think a lot of sectors and a lot of industries, financial services for one, are adopting what has been the trend in telecommunication. Back in those days, 50 years ago, we used to go through trunks, operators, switchboards. and now we're all entirely cellular. I mean, large organizations that are, because, you know, and the handling, the management of the healthcare has been entrusted to large organizations that run large asset base of hospitals, clinics, and things. The trend is definitely to go cellular. Again, I repeat it. I mean, to go and treat the patients from remote as much as possible, because this will contain costs, and it will, you know, make for a better ledger, better P&L, better margins, and, you know, everybody will be a happy camper. So I think this is a big trend that it's in the healthcare system, which is dominated by entities, by companies that are, you know, handling the patients. The patients are the inventory. I mean, it's a little bit of a, you know, sad, difficult, and dangerous thing to say, but, you know, we're dealing with inventory which is made of human beings. But, you know, nonetheless, insurance companies and big pharma and the healthcare companies, you know, around the world are trying to make their P&L look better. And one way to do it most definitely is to use as much technology as possible, which has been vetted and validated, to hold and treat the patients from as much and as remote as possible, you know, and not to let them come near the hospitals. Because, you know, the moment you onboard a patient in a hospital, you encumber your P&L with a lot of costs, because, again, the inventory is a specific type of inventory. So you can't just have a LIFO, a FIFO so quickly as you are dealing with hardware and other types of material things. So I think, you know, this will be the mega trend. I mean, to try and do everything cellular. You know, even the banking system has been affected by this. There's disintermediation all over. There's a number of digital firms that have come into regulated spaces, with fintech and online banking, you know, and they are substituting and taking over large behemoths that were considered too big to fail. And they might be too big to fail, but they might be doomed for extinction no matter what, because, you know, the consumers are deciding that they want something different. And again, for healthcare, it would be, I say, pretty much the same thing. So there's going to be everything that goes in the direction of, let's say, making the life and the balance sheets of those institutions looking better and more profitable, more remunerative for them and their stakeholders, shareholders, and every participant. I think will be welcome. Technology will pull the phenomenon, and will pull the trend over and over and over, and it will show us the forward path. Again, just to make a comment on what Neil said before, I think, you know, the bottleneck of the academia is not necessarily meant to remain a bottleneck forever. I think a lot of academia institutions will simply go out of business because they don't have anything to offer which is compatible with the status quo that we expect nowadays out of technology connected to medicine and in general healthcare. So, you know, it might be there might be a snap and something might be removed from this train bandwagon. You know, you might lose some of the wagons as we move forward, because definitely we're not going to stop doing what we're doing in technology, and, you know, the pace is only accelerating, if ever.
Right, and to that point, Gary, to you, I mean, to Gianpaolo's point, I mean, the pace is just accelerating. I know you're a big component of this digitalization that we're going through right now. Where are you seeing other areas of opportunity as well?
Well, I mean, in terms of, you know, so the part that intrigues me is this data. So let's go back to the one model we talked about, the computer vision model at Stanford University for melanoma. So imagine having the capability to use computer vision to be better than 23 of the top specialists, literally. So what I'm interested in is how we can aggregate all this knowledge about all the different, and we started years ago when we did 5 years ago, when we did a project at Stanford with my MBA students. Well, one of the things that I'm really interested in is sharing knowledge worldwide about particular diseases and disorders using artificial intelligence to be able to help solve those problems, and getting that knowledge from those specialists into the system as training sets to be able to help solve those issues. the situation right now, as I said, with COVID and being able to do the drug discovery, imagine having those capabilities to anticipate what COVID-20 is going to look like, right? And come up with solutions before it's a problem. Those kind of things, it's really intrigues me. And that's really what I'm interested in personally. The thing with remote patient monitoring and some of the other projects that we have investments, I love that because it makes the quality of our life better. So, that's data from my standpoint. It can help us solve a lot of problems. I mean, that's what it's all about. Look at a physician. What did they traditionally do? You use the physician's desk reference to gather information to try to figure out how a drug would interact with another drug. Now imagine having these therapies that are very personalized that allow us to be able to come up with direct drug, and not have to go through and, guess whether it'll work or not. And, a typical doc, you go into their office, you get 10, 15 minutes of their time. It's impossible for them to give you accurate information. You know what I mean? It's impossible. How in the world? They don't even remember the last time they saw you unless they read it in a file. It's crazy, right? We got to redefine this system, and data is going to help us do it in AI.
Anuj, to you, absolutely. Anuj, to you, what are you seeing as the areas of opportunity?
So one of the areas of opportunities that I see, like I said, a lot of companies in teleconsultation are coming up. So while there are going to be companies that are going to be on the front lines, that's going to be interacting with the patients, I do see a huge, I would say, potential and opportunity in the back end as well, where all the development and all the research is happening. Calling back to Gianpaolo's point that there is a huge backlog in the academia session, and there's a reason for it. I mean, you got to realize internet is a very new technology. We've only had it for 50 years or less. Compare that to medicine, which has been there for almost 5,000 years, and that's been taught for 5,000 years. That's why, as a sector itself, medicine has always been hesitant to change, because you got to realize that when you are working in medicine, you are not just working with data. You are not just working with numbers or code. You are working with actual people. And again, as engineers, it's easy to forget. If something happens to Facebook's data, of course, it's just a few lost pictures. It's just some lost advertising revenue or something like that, probably an election. But when you're talking about MedTech, you got to realize you're actually dealing with people. And if something goes wrong, those people can die. We talk about personalized medication, but one of the key areas of opportunity for new companies or for new startup is to realize that you can't develop an Alexa or a Siri. Not everyone can develop that, especially in MedTech, because you're not going to be able to personalize medicine for everyone. You're not going to be able to personalize, all right, this drug is only going to work for you for this particular condition. That's not cost effective. You gotta work in a different way, where you have to create a system where it's personalizing care rather than personalizing medicine. And there's a huge difference that entrepreneurs have to understand. So like I'm saying, we gotta stop thinking like engineers, we gotta stop thinking like coders, and you gotta start thinking like humans. MedTech is one sector where you have to have a lot of empathy. You have to make sure that you're reverse engineering everything. You're following design thinking protocols, making sure that you're thinking from the patient's side of things, you're thinking of the doctor's side of things, the hospital side of things, and everything else. And once you've only cleared the backlog in the academic sectors is where you're going to have real innovation, because there is a lot that's there that's just waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. Neil, I saw you had a quick comment at one point.
Yeah, no, I do. I disagree again with somebody on the panel. Anuj, I do think we're going to get to completely customized medicines at some point. I don't know when. I'm not going to try and figure that out or make a prediction about that. But we're headed that way for sure. And I do think we'll see it in our lifetimes. And I don't think it's cost effective today, but I've seen some platforms that make me think a lot about it. And I think some of the first customized drugs we'll see will be for cancer. I think we'll actually see customized cancer vaccines over the course of the next decade.
I actually want to agree with you on that. You're absolutely right. We are working with a Canadian company right now that's actually working in that sector. I'll share a live example. One of the users for whom we did some DNA mapping was actually suffering from chronic muscle fatigue and issues like that. So what turns out is their DNA is in such a way that their body finds it, their body has issues getting rid of lactic acid. So the more they exercise, the more that person suffers muscle fatigue and weakness. So the issue for them was more or less, hey, stop exercising more, just make sure that you're reducing your calorie count. And you're right, cancer will see personalized medication, but that's not going to happen for every sector. There will be personalized care for this user. We did not develop a medication to change that. We developed a personalized care. We were able to do a personalized diagnosis, find out what's wrong with them at just their individual level, and then just alter that to give them a treatment that's right for them, give them a care that's right for them.
Gary, do you have a comment? I see that you've unmuted. Do you have a quick comment or just?
No, I mean, I was saying this, the same thing in terms of the individualized therapy. I mean, that's just a trend, and that's the way it's going to happen. I mean, that's what the pharmacists, that's what the pharmacies, that's what the drug companies need. I mean, we need to have individual therapy that if the lactic acid, if we got a buildup of lactic acid, and you're telling people to exercise, it's counterintuitive, right? You would normally say exercise to get rid of the acid. So we need to have, that's why gene mapping and understanding that genetic screening is really important.
And Ritesh, I absolutely agree. Ritesh, I apologize. We've taken some time to get to you. It's been a long journey, but go ahead and close this out of the areas of opportunity, and then we're going to come around for closing thoughts for everybody, or where everyone can find each other, because we're about at time. So go ahead and toss in your thoughts as to where you're seeing the areas of opportunity.
Sure, Kyle. So we as Saracap look at 4 sectors where the opportunities are. And it starts from research and development. And I'll give you an example. There's a company called Harmonica. They are into DNA sequencing, and they're trying to do a long read and short read. Amazing company. And their whole game plan is that how they can reduce the total DNA sequencing time, right? So that it is a very innovative, 100% research and development. They will never see the revenue. And if they're able to crack this code, it will be bought by a large pharmaceutical company very quickly. So that is one sector where the opportunity is because of all the changes that are happening in this landscape. Second opportunity is in the software space, like RPM softwares that we are seeing. These are all the ones that are going to either provide a personal care or they're going to provide stay-home services, right? That's second opportunity. The third opportunity is in the devices or the hardware. Different types of the hardwares are being built, keeping a very specific domain in mind. Like I'll tell you one company that we are evaluating right now. It's in the wound care. So wound care is one which is a chronic disease, and guys who are sitting in the adult cares or in the hospital for a long time, or diabetic patients, they have a major issues with the wound. And this company is coming up with a device that you just install or as an add-on on your phone, and it takes a high resolution picture and send it to any RPM product that you are integrated with. So that's the third thing that we are seeing in the device space. There is a lot of innovation happening, a lot of good opportunities to make an investment. And that last one is on the telecommunication side, and that's the binding thing. With 5G coming in, it's a game changer, completely game changer. So all these things, all the 3 or 4 sectors that I talked about with 5G on top of it is going to change the complete landscape. And that's another opportunity, which is a 5G. The companies that are making the innovations in the 5G space are the one where good investment opportunities are coming. And the last but not the least, what we are seeing also is that all this digital transformation that is happening in the healthcare space or biomed space, that is going to eliminate all the middlemen. See, it's a relationship between a doctor and a patient, right? And the rest all is in between is the middleman, right? Whether it's a pharmacy company, whether it's the insurance companies or the providers or the payers, right? These are all middlemen. And right now, today, in today's world, a doctor and a patient has to go through these channels. With technology coming in between, all the digitization and the landscape, the way it is changing, technology is going to be the middleman. All these softwares are going to be the middleman, right? That will basically route whether you need to go telemedicine route, personal care route, or you have to go whatever route you have to go. These are guys who are going to control in between patient and doctor. And I think that is the biggest transformation we'll see in next 5 to 10 years, where you will never talk to your payers or you never talk to your provider. You will be talking to the guy who's providing you the service, and the service provider will be talking to the folks that are getting the service. So this is where we, as I said, we as Seracap sees the opportunity in different sectors, and all these sectors, if you have the right bet, they all have the potential to be unicorn in next 5 to 10 years.
I love it. Where can everyone find you online as we come here to wrap at the top of the hour? Ritish, where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
So if I were to say, Kyle, you know what, interesting time in my closing comment. I think one of my colleague compared this thing to space age. If I go back and look at it, it is what happened in 2000, 2005 in the communication sector, right? At that time when the cell phone came in, it was a mode of communicating or connecting people through the cell phone. But today, connection or communication is a feature in a cell phone. There are a lot of things that we do. So what we are seeing is that all the changes that are happening in the landscape or in the healthcare space, it is the revolution that happened in 2000 in the communication space or in the cell phone space that is bound to happen in the healthcare space also.
Wonderful. Anuj, where can everyone find you online? Unfortunately, we don't have any more time for closing thoughts as we're hitting the top of the hour. So where can everyone find you online?
Find me on LinkedIn that's at Anuj Chauhan, ANUUJCHAUHAN, or with just my first name on Twitter. You can also email me on anuj@atotum.com. That's ANUUJ@ATUTUM.com.
Wonderful. Gary, to you. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, sure. Gary Fowler, LinkedIn. GSD Venture Studios is my company. I'm happy to talk to you. And thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Gianpaolo.
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, Gianpaolo Parigi on LinkedIn, or on my personal website, gianpaoloparigi.com.
Wonderful. Neil.
You can find me on LinkedIn at look for Neil Modi. I think I'm the only Neil Modi there. Maybe there's two, but and then I don't accept smoke signals, so don't send them to me. Carrier pigeon. Hey. We just got rid of our carrier pigeon coop too.
And with that, I'm trying not to laugh too much, but with that, to Neil's point, make sure you add context when you do reach out to all of our investors and even including myself and or the team here at LATOKEN, because context will help us understand what direction to take the conversation and also help begin that initial relationship together as we start talking about different things. So make sure you add context. You met us here on BCTV. You want to talk more about a specific industry or company or topic that was mentioned here as well. With that, a big thank you to each and every one of our investors today. Really appreciate you all joining and sharing your thoughts and insights. To your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up, do reach out. If you'd like to be on a show like today as an investor to share your thoughts and insights, and also do reach out, thank you, Gary, as an entrepreneur, if you'd like to be on the virtual stage here at BCTV and pitch us as investors to get real-time feedback about your company, product, and or service, along with to our live audience. Thank you, Ritish. And also, last but not least, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team as well, and Emmanuel for making BCTV possible every single day. We'll be back in just a little bit after a short break here on BCTV with more talking about what's happening in the gaming, entertainment, and esports space as well. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere at Kyle Ellicott, and we'll see you soon.